Aloha everyone, in this tutorial I will be talking about while loops. So in the other video I was talking about for loops and the need to use for loops. So as you know, using loops in Python or in any program is very important. So the next step after you're familiar with different types of loops is how do you know what type of loop to use when you're given a certain situation in which you want to use a looping functionality. Well, here I'm going to be talking about the while loop. Now, a big difference versus for loop and a while loop is that for for loops, you would mainly use for loops if you know the size of what you're going to iterate over. For the while loop, it's more, you don't really need to know the size of anything. Basically, the while loop uses conditions, and it checks if the condition is true. So you can use greater than or less than, it can use does this equal this, and stuff. So for while loops, it mainly uses conditions, conditional statements. For loops, if you know the size of something that you're gonna iterate over, then you're probably gonna want to use a for loop versus a while loop. For the while loop, you can still use it to iterate over something, but I guess majority, if you're iterating over a set of something, you would want to use the for loop. So now I'm going to talk about the while loop. I really like the while loop since you can kind of iterate through it, but it's not tricky, but it's good for conditional things. So here I'm going to talk about some notes on it. And if you notice, here's my notes on while loop. And let's focus our attention to this template. This is the template of the while loop. Notice you just while loop and you can add a parentheses and the colon and indentation. So let's go ahead and read this while loop a little bit. So this code is saying while the condition is true, do something. And if you ever want to escape the while loop, then use the break statement. So that's something to remember about while loops. While loops, basically it's going to look like while the condition is true, colon, indentation, let's do something. And if you ever want to escape the while loop, even though the condition is true, then you can just use the break statement. Now you're asking, well, what is a condition? A condition, basically, whatever you add here inside the parentheses, it has to come out to being either true or false. So that's a condition. To enter the while loop, the condition that you use, whatever condition that you use, it needs to equal or sum up to true. Now, if it's false, let's say your condition is false, it is not going to enter. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to escape out of the while loop because it's not true. So remember, we only can enter the while loop if the condition is true. So conditions can either be true or it can be false. Let's take a look at this now. Notice x equals 0 and a equals 3. Now here is a condition. Is x greater than 1? In other words, is 0 greater than 1? So that condition, it's going to be false. So if this condition was up here in the while loop, would it enter? The condition is false, so is it going to enter? No, it's not going to enter. Why? Because the condition is not true. You can only enter the while loop if it's true. Here's another condition. Does x equal a? Well, x is 0 and a is 3. They do not equal, so it's false. It wouldn't enter the while loop. Now this one's saying x does not equal 33. Remember in the basics of learning Python, this symbol right here, this means not. So reading this out loud, does x does not equal 33. And x is 0, so it's basically saying 0 does not equal 33. And this condition is true. So if this condition was up here, and it's true, it will enter the while loop and it'll perform things. Now let's look at this other condition. It's comparing strings. So does this string equal this string? No, it does not. Why? I mean, it's reading out cat, but if you look at the semantics close enough, it's not the same. I mean, if we were to say dot to dot lower, and then put dot lower here as well, then they would equal. And then it would be entering the while loop. So that's a little summary of while loops. It's really nice and it's good. So let me show you an example. So I'm going to go to my projects folders. I'm going to go into practice. But before I go in there, I'm going to get my template and I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm going to call this while loops. So great. I'm going to start using a while loop. So remember, look at this template. I'm going to take this template right here. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to add it right here. So while loop, while the condition is true. So basically, whatever the condition is, it needs to equal true for it to do something. So for Python, true is capital. So while true, then do something. Well, what do I want to do in this while loop? Let's say I wanted to print something. What if I wanted to print hello world? So if I ran this, looking at this code, while the condition is true, which it is true because I'm setting it to true, then we're going to go ahead and do something. So these are just comments, so nothing's going to happen with the comments. But here, when it gets down here, it's going to print hello world. And how many times is it going to print hello world? Well, it's going to, after it prints once, it's going to go back to the while loop and the condition is still true. And it's going to keep printing and printing and printing, and it's going to be an infinite while loop. So this example is displaying an infinite while loop, meaning it's going to continue forever because it is always true. I can go ahead and run that example right now. Let me get the path of where my file is. Open up my command prompt or terminal, navigate to the directory, and I'm going to do a cd or, not cd, python for my while loop. So I'm going to hit enter now, and it's going to take me to this infinite loop right here, because it's just while forever, basically. While true is always going to be true. So I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to see how it's going to print like the whole time. Oops. Line 5. What is it saying? Unexpected EOF while parsing. Try it again. There we go. And it's printing forever. I'm scrolling. And it's looping forever. So I'm going to stop that. And I'm going to exit it. So it was printing forever because it was a while loop. It was going on for a long time. So you typically don't want to use an infinite while loop. So instead of me saying true all the time, what if if I wanted to escape it, I could just use the break statement. So right after I print hello world, I'm just going to use this break statement. So looking at this code right now, while true, the condition is true, so it's going to enter the while loop. and it's going to print hello world. So it's going to print hello world once, and then the next line of code, it's going to say break. And it's not going to go back up here because it kind of just, using this statement just breaks out of the loop, and it finishes and the program is over. So notice I'm not indenting it because after it's finished with the while loop, oops, after it does this while loop, then it will print. And it's not indented with the while loop, so that means it doesn't belong to the while loop and it's coming after the while loop. So let's go ahead and run that again. Just gonna put Python, and then the file name. So I'm gonna hit enter, and I should only get hello world once. Yay! So I got hello world once and program is over. Great. So what I could do inside this while loop, if I didn't want the condition to always be true, because it's not really showing an effect that I really want. So what I could do here, I could write condition equals condition equals true. Then I could write condition here. And does that work? It'll be pretty much the same thing, right? Yeah, it would. So what if I wanted to kind of do like in the previous videos I showed you, like, oh, until the user hits Q, then the program will quit. So we can go ahead and do an example of that. So first I'm going to delete that and focus on the top here. If user input equals user input, let's say user input equals Q for quit. Wait, hold on, let me think about this. User input equals, okay, nothing. So what we're going to do here in our condition, while user input does not equal quit or Q, while user input does not equal Q, I am going to keep asking them something. Enter your name or enter Q to quit. Alright, so what's going to happen? So right now, user input is blank. And here it's saying, while the user input does not equal Q, then it can enter. So it's going to enter, and the first thing it's going to do is just going to ask, enter your name or enter Q to quit. So it's going to basically, what if I entered my name, Precious, and then it goes back up here, does Precious does not equal Q. That's true. So it's going to keep asking, enter your name or enter Q to quit. So what if I typed in Bill? So user input is now Bill, and does Bill does not equal Q, and that's true. So it's going to enter and it's going to continue on this loop. Now, the next time around, if I enter Q, it's going to say, so if user input will be Q, because I entered Q, so now it's going to say, does Q does not equal Q. That's false. So it's not even going to enter anymore, and it's going to say program is over. So let's go ahead and run that. Make sure the file is saved before we run it. And let's try run that. Enter your name or enter Q to quit. So if I enter my name, it's gonna keep asking for my name. So if I finally, so it's a looping definitely, because the user input always does not equal Q for now. But if I type in Q, it should quit and I should get program is over. Yeah, program is over. So there you go. So I could fix it up so that there's some space in between, or I could put a colon so that it'll run better and it's a little bit more friendlier. So I run it, enter your name, or hit Q. So see, having the space is a little bit nicer. So I'm gonna enter my name, yay! And then it's like, oh, it keeps asking for my name. And I'm getting pretty annoyed, so I'm gonna quit the program and I'm gonna basically end the while loop. There, program is over. Great. So take a look at this program. User input is nothing at first, and it goes to the next line, and it's checking if the while statement, the while condition is true. Is this true the first time around? Yes, it is true. So it's going to enter the while loop and it's going to do its business. And its business is basically saying enter your name or enter Q to quit. Great. Now, another way to do this, we can use the break statement. So I'm going to remove this condition right here, and I'm going to say true. So enter your name or hit Q. So here, this is where I'm going to do the checking actually. If user input does not, if user input, oops. So if the user actually inputs Q here, and what I want to do, I want to use the break statement and just break the loop right there. Else, no, I don't need an else, because then it'll just repeat up here. So notice I really don't need this user input anymore. So while the condition is true, which it is true, it's going to enter the code. And the first thing it's asking, enter your name or enter Q to quit. So whatever I enter, it's going to be stored inside user input. And let's say I entered my name, and then it's going to check if my name equals Q, then it's going to break. Since my name does not equal Q, then it's not even going to enter this if statement, and it's just going to continue on, and it's going to go back up here. While the condition is true, and it's going to do this, and then if I finally enter Q, then user input will be Q, and then it'll be if Q equals Q, then let's break. We could also do a thing. We could also do another message saying, sorry to see you go. And then it'll break. So before we actually break out of the while loop, we're just going to print them a message saying, sorry to see you go. Let's go ahead and run that. Enter your name or enter Q to quit. I'm going to enter my name, don't want to quit yet. And it's still asking for my name. And even if I hit enter, which was blank, it's not really my name, but it's taking in whatever I'm entering. I can type in anything because it's just taking it in as a string. So I finally want to quit. And what's going to happen when I quit? Right before I hit, let's go back. So it's always going to compare my user input if it's Q. Now, in this case, I'm going to actually type in Q. So it's going to go here and print out, sorry to see you go. and then it's gonna break out of the while loop, and then it's gonna go outside the while loop and do whatever code is left in the program. I'm gonna hit enter. And it said sorry to see you go. Program is over. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Mahalo.